So Samantha is a PhD candidate at the University of Toronto, studying how stem cells build and maintain in the brain. She goes by the nickname Science Sam online, where you can find her showing fun and the trendy side of science research on Instagram. So let's give a big warm welcome to Samantha.
Thank you so much. Use this guy. You're like taking a walk. So I'm here like many of you because I love science. Science as in the philosophy, science as in the application of the scientific method that helps us discover new truths. To me, science is the lens that lets us see the true beauty of the world around us. It turns something as simple as a breath, a wispy cloud in the sky, the ripple effect in a pond, or an annoying cold, things that we walk by, ignore, despise, into something that's so fascinating. It captivates us, and we give it our undivided attention. I've always loved science. From a young age, I was that kid, probably like many of you, who would be asking my parents constantly, how does this work? Why is the sky blue? You know? And they weren't in science, but they always encouraged me, and I'm so grateful for that. To this day, I'm still asking questions, and I got to this point where I realized a lot of my questions don't have answers, and you know what? I'm stubbornly curious enough that I'm gonna just have to find them myself. And so that led me to where I am now, which is in my 5th year of my PhD at the University of Toronto. It's been tough. It's not easy. It really isn't. But I'll be honest, and I'm not just saying this because this is a Women in STEM conference, I'll be honest, I'm very happy, and I could not be happier with the choice that I made to pursue science education. And the reason is because I'm so privileged, and I recognize that. I get to spend my days just being curious and passionate about the world around me, and that's an enormous amount of privilege. And I will note here that you can still do that within or outside of academia. You can do that with or without a degree as well, and that's really important to note. But, now here's the big one. Science as in the institution. Science as in academic culture. Science as in the systems that govern my degree. That I have a problem with. And that's why I'm here today to talk to you. To tell you what it's like to be a woman in STEM, I just want to take a step back and talk to you about what it's like to be a woman in 2017. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do this, but just a few things from this past year. South of the border, we saw an intelligent, hardworking former Secretary of State, former senator, be diminished to 5 letters, N-A-S-T-Y, nasty. We saw the horrific Google memo talking complete nonsense about making all these claims about women's brains that completely ignore gender constructs, they ignore everything we know about neurodevelopment, and they ignore everything we know about social conditioning. And I had to read that. More recently, 9 of the Nobel Prize awardees related to STEM, surprise, surprise, were given to men. And if you think that this is only a global thing, let's think about what's happened in Canada. Earlier this year, I learned the statistic that of the 27 Canada Excellence Research Chairs that were given out, only 1 out of 27 was given to a woman, and we have so many fantastic scientists, many of which are in this room. These are all due, as we've said, to large-scale systemic inequities. And while many people, our foremothers, have fought so much to bring us so many rights, including the right to vote, there is still a lot more work to be done. All of these things, to me, are kind of like these gigantic collisions of apathy and inefficiencies, honestly. And those big collisions, I feel the impact from them, these aftershocks, tremors, in my day-to-day life as a woman in STEM. So I want to give you some examples, and feel free to make some noise or whatever you like to do. If you've experienced any of these things, I'm going to tell you about from my personal experiences. So the other day, I had someone explain to me the ultrastructure of DNA. I teach a genetics class at the University of Toronto, thank you very much. I did not need nor ask for that explanation. Hashtag mansplain, yeah, anyone? All right. I tweeted about the scientific inaccuracies of that Google memo that came out earlier this year, And I tweeted about it as a neuroscientist who understands brains and how we develop and our capacities as women and as people and all different types of species as well. I tweeted about it scientifically. What did I get? Every time I turned on my phone for the next week after I put out those tweets, I had some hate message from some online troll telling me that I'm a joke, that I'm not a good scientist. Every single day, that's what's on my phone right in my face. You might have noticed I started the introduction to this talk telling you about my love of science, telling you about my, what stage of my career that I'm in. The reason I think that I do that is out of habit, because I'm so used to having to always justify that I have a voice and that I should be listened to, and I'm someone that you should listen to. And I think a lot of women have to do that. We have to prove ourselves all the time, and it's just not fair. We're not given that automatic credibility that a lot of our colleagues are given. And I think that has a lot, in my case, to do with the type of woman I am. So let's think a little bit intersectionally. I'm a, quote unquote, heavy quote unquote, girly female. I like makeup, I like fashion, I wear heels and whatever. And for some reason our society has said that that makes me unintelligent or not ambitious. That's just not true, trust me. Speaking of makeup, I've also had someone say to me, maybe if you spend less time putting on makeup, you could spend more time learning and reading. Little does that person, yeah, I'm not kidding. And this is actually from someone my age, so that's just, anyways. So to that I say to myself, you don't even know what I do when I put on that makeup. When I'm putting on my makeup, I'm in my Zen creative zone. I'm having all these fantastic ideas. And you don't know that. At the same time, I'm not saying the beauty industry is perfect. I think it's really, really flawed, and I think we can think about my relationship with makeup, sure. I tried to do that with the campaign, skip benefit, not class. Anyways, if from time to time a woman wants to wear a bold lip, or anyone wants to wear a bold lip for that matter, that is okay, and she shouldn't need to justify that. That doesn't make her any less of whatever she's trying to be. The last thing is a story that's all too familiar. It makes me equal parts yawn and equal parts kind of want to barf because I hear it so much. It's that case of being a woman going to a networking event and you have more people trying to hit on you than talk to you about things that you're actually qualified to discuss. And I'm sick of hearing my friends tell me these stories. Keep telling me them, but at the same time, we need to do something to change that. Because these little things that seep into our lives are the reason why before any academic conference, I have to spend so much time thinking about what I'm gonna wear because I don't wanna be too sexy so that I get that unwanted attention. I don't wanna be, I wanna be taken seriously. But early in my PhD, I decided none of that. I don't have time for that. I'm not gonna think about that. I don't wanna buy new boring clothes. I like my clothes. I'm gonna wear those. And by doing that, I can give representation to other people in the room who feel the same way. And so now if anything, I go over the top. I wear crop tops when I give talks. I don't care because I want to show people that you can do that and you can still be really smart. And I encourage people, if you have that energy, to do the same thing. You don't need to change who you are to be successful. None of these are unique stories. I'm not telling something that you haven't, none of these things are things you haven't heard before. I was talking to my friend the other day. She's a PhD candidate like me. She bioengineers antibodies, and she said, we're talking about being a woman in STEM, she said to me, I have recently realized how angry I ought to be. I have never been more offended in my life as I have been since I opened up my eyes to these inequities. And the thing is that these are all just really small things that really build up. And it's frustrating, as was said earlier by Brittany, these really small microaggressions, they're small enough that if you try to complain about them, you're told you're oversensitive. And it's kind of hard to bring them up because they are really small instances. But remember that they happen every single day. And they happen to all of us in this room, right? Every single day it's happening, and they really add up. This is why what people say, as was said, it's death by 1,000 cuts. These microaggressions cause major aggravations and major anxiety as we try to avoid stereotype threat, which is a real thing. So there are systems, institutions, companies, yes, that create these inequities that we feel every single day resonating with us on the small scale. But there are also flawed individuals that reinforce them. And when you try to call them out, you might get waved away, but your comments might just be dismissed, but you should still do it anyways when you can. And I think it's so interesting that these really permeate even into our language, as Imogen mentioned in the panel discussion. I've been thinking lately about the words that I use sometimes, and I think it's interesting. I'll call grown men men, but I'll refer to a grown woman as a girl. I'm okay with saying like, hey girl, that's fine, but to say that girl who gave the talk, I'm a woman, I'm not a girl. Let's acknowledge that. I start my emails with just checking in. I'm not like as if I have to justify why I'm taking up space in your inbox. What? No, I'm checking in. That's it. Speaking of space, I've realized like on the TTC, I'll kind of shift to the edge of my seat to make room for the person next to me. And then I start realizing I don't need to do that. I can occupy space. I'm allowed. I can woman spread if I need to, if I want to. Another thing is if I was taking that TTC home from an event where we were sharing food, I might be a little hungry because I don't always take all of, I'm afraid to take seconds even though everyone else does because, I don't know, women aren't supposed to eat or something. And that's something really important, I think, to pay attention to too. Take that third slice of pizza, who cares? Sorry, I'm so passionate, I need to stay on track. So these are things that are really ingrained in us. They can be really hard to change, but that's why it's important for us to have conversations with people from diverse experiences. It's really important for us to open up and talk to one another. And we need to graciously accept feedback because all of us have some amount of privilege. And it's just when the benefits of that privilege are unequally dispersed that we have these problems. And so we just need to recognize our privilege, use those benefits to help people, and realize that everyone has some small amounts of privileges and disadvantages, some people more than others. And because if we don't, all of these really small things I talked about can really build up into something big. And it can be really hard. The sum of them is bigger than anything that any one of us can change on our own. What this means is don't be discouraged at all. I'm sorry if I seemed negative. Well, I'm not sorry because it needs to be said. I don't mean for this to be negative. I don't want you to be discouraged because I actually think this is hopeful. What this means is that the onus does not fall on any one individual in this room. And it means that there's more reason than ever for us to band together. There are people in this room who have been fighting for this cause since before I was born, before you were born. And it's important to remember that they're still there fighting with you, and it's not you on yourself. I have to say this because I think women are socially conditioned to be competitive with one another. I want to say, one, don't do that. It's a bad experiment to ever compare yourself to another person. You don't have all of the data on their end, but you have all the data on yours. Not proper controls, bad science, don't do it. But more importantly, there's no need to compete with other women. We can all exist together and we can just foster a culture where we all support one another. I'm not climbing to the top on top of you, I'm going with you and we're going together, we're raising each other up. We need to foster that culture and it's really important to fight for it. And Doina can correct me, but to me, her VOLUTION is when we see her success as also my success. When we've evolved to that level, then I think that's something really big. I want to say that when I say we, I'm referring not just to women, I'm referring to those in the LGBTQ community, those with different statuses of indigeneity. I'm talking about first-generation academics, those who are gender non-conforming, everyone. We need everyone building, creating, innovating, discovering, teaching, and leading. All of us together, we need to push back together. And it's not in an us versus them way, it's just us. It's us together doing what we can to create really good things to make our world a better place. It's exhausting to do alone, and there's power in safety in numbers, so find those people. Stand up together against misogyny, racism, ableism, ageism, everything. Stand up together, it's a lot more fun. Educate when you can, rage when you need to, that's fine. You are allowed to get mad, but know that the burden is not on one individual person. It's on us together, and it's on us to hold others accountable, even more importantly, because we only have so much energy, and we're also really valuable and have important things related to our interests to do as well. So one of the things I think you can also do is realize, again, that power in your language, the power in the things that you say, but also realize the power in your silence sometimes. And in that, I'm being very specific and saying that you don't need to engage in gossip. You will change your life by vowing to never again speak poorly of another woman or another person of any underrepresented group. Try it. It is actually really difficult, and I've been doing it for the last year, and it's tough. It's tougher than I thought it would be. But if you try that, the power of that silence when someone's gossiping or speaking up against that gossip, that's something that can really cause a big change that we need to change these systems. Because we do need to change systems, not just people. In the meantime, though, while we're trying to change those systems, that can take a while. That's okay, we're still gonna do it. But don't let that hold you back. Ask for things, ask to be nominated, support one another, build your network, If you're not having a voice, build your own network. I did that with Instagram. I didn't feel I was being heard, so I went on Instagram and now I am heard. I just made my own system and that's been incredibly empowering. Being a woman in STEM can be really great, but often really tough. Being a group of women in STEM, that's amazing. And when I look at this room, I know that it's going to keep being more and more amazing. And so I thank you all for being here, for being allies and being supportive. And I am so, so blessed to know all of the people in this room. If you need a champion or a mentor, look around, they're all here. So thank you so much, and I'm happy to chat anytime. I'm very findable online, so please reach out.